Welcome to the Healthy Habit Hot Seat, where we chat to extraordinary humans and world-leading health experts to dive deep into the intricacies of the daily habits that have shaped their success. Remember, success leaves clues, right? I'm your host and resident healthy habit coach, Loz Antonenko, and I cannot wait to help you re-energize your life so you too can create opportunity, vitality, and abundance to become the master of your own incredible healthy destiny. Now, let's get into today's conversation. I'd like to welcome Anne-Marie Lasserre to the Healthy Habit Hot Seat. You have been such an inspiration to me. The first time that we met, we really connected, and I really resonated with your message about creating sustainable health and wellness. You've done so many things in your life. Imagine we're queuing for green tea at a bodybuilding event, and there's only 30 seconds before you and I are going to part ways. So let's take into consideration, it's a short, sharp message. What is your message for our listeners about what you stand for and who you are?
Okay, so what I stand for is being female empowered. I support helping people to be the best of their ability. The reason I like people to be the best of their ability, because you can't be any better than yourself. So then with the knowledge that I've experienced from the goods, bad and the ugly, I like to extend that forward to the next person. So hopefully it can help their life in some way.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And there's so much passion in your voice. I can see that there's quite a story behind that message for sure. And I'm excited to dive into that message for the rest of this podcast. So when you were younger, you suffered from disordered eating patterns. And as an adult, you've been dealing not only with celiac disease, but multiple food intolerances. How has this impaired your daily life and impacted your journey to becoming a professional figure athlete?
Okay, so when I was quite young, probably I can recollect from probably 5 to 7, had a real sort of my relationship with food became quite distorted. The fact I couldn't handle different substances, chewing it, or how it smelled, or how it actually made me smell as well. So I've always been quite sensitive to how things tasted. So I got to the point, even right up until 14, 15, I was a strict vegan. And a strict vegan, obviously animal rights and whatever, but it was mainly because I couldn't handle actually tasting or feeling or actually absorbing them, and then digestion as well. So then growing up, then doing ballet and then riding horses, it just felt better for me to feel healthy by not having a lot of meat into my diet. But then as I started to pursue more fitness, became excessively tired, I found I couldn't keep my protein content up high enough. And then when I actually started pursuing bodybuilding, I found it almost unachievable to keep my body fat down and keep energy levels up without having any animal protein into my system. So then I met my first coach, and he insisted me on having various amounts of proteins from red meat, white meat, and anything from a tin. And basically I wasn't force fed, but I chose to take that lifestyle on. And years later, I really struggled with trying to absorb any minerals from it, and then ended up getting quite sick from that. And then years later, I still find myself not able to absorb a lot of things. And if I had kept going in that same way, I wouldn't have had the career I had. So I took a step and go, I have to listen to what my body can actually handle and what I can actually tolerate, and went from there. So from now, if I look back at it, the disordered eating patterns that was set as a bodybuilder and we were encouraged to eat didn't necessarily fit everyone. As back then we'll say, well, this is what you do to become a bodybuilder. I'm like, well, how can that be right when I feel sick all the time? Or I can actually chart the progress from the moment I have that meal to 7 minutes later feeling absolutely sick or incapacitated in some way. So coming all the way up through figure, the first couple of years with IFBB figure, I really struggled, and it was usually post prep, which was worse, when I started to incorporate back into a sort of a normal eating pattern after being off a fairly carnivorous or high protein diet. That was usually the worst. It was the 6 months post show that I really didn't cope with. And you have to go back to normal life, which I didn't cope with.
Yeah, right. So it's had a really significant impact on, your journey, I guess. And I think where you are now, like, what a ride, man, because you're described as the most successful NABBA figure athlete from Australia. So health and wellness has been a huge part of that journey for you. And now you're a wellness mentor and a coach. I guess a question here is, what did you do to increase and maintain your motivation despite all of these challenges that you faced?
Okay, so most of the time I found when I was feeling uncomfortable or feeling, tired from inadequate calories, I was angry a lot of the times too. So I think my body actually went to switch drive into more adrenal. So I used to find myself, my personality was slightly pissed off or enraged most of the time. So you come to a point in your career that you think, why am I so angry? Why do I not get on with people? Why do I take things so seriously? Why can't I back off? And I was lucky that I met up with my coach, John Davey, who pointed out to me, he says, you are way too angry for a female. And what do you look forward to in your time off? And I was like, I don't have any time off. I just get through this, blah, blah, blah. And I actually realized with myself that I didn't really enjoy anything. I was basically focused on what I wanted to achieve and what I needed to achieve, and then started testing everything. Started testing, bloods, what was going on in their bloods, how things were filtering. So it wasn't that point. It was that point in the career, probably 10 to 12 years ago, that I started really, really looking after myself, opposed to just doing what I was told. So then started questioning things, going, why do I have to take all these supplements or vitamins when I could be getting it from food? And why do I have the same food every day? So then I started questioning, okay, well, why am I being a part of something that's actually not suiting me? And then why am I not getting answers either? So then I started doing my own research and my investigation and hiring my own experts in the parameters that they had mastered. So towards the end of my career, there was probably 7 different people looking after what I needed to do, all different doctors or coaches in terms of what I needed to do to get where I was. It wasn't just one person the answer. So that's a lot of pressure for some person to do. So that's when I started taking control of what I needed to do for myself.
Wow. That's interesting to hear that, because so many people don't even use a coach when they embark on journeys, like especially with bodybuilding. I mean, personally, I know people that will try and prep for a stage show and go, oh, I can do it on my own. But there is so much merit in having a coach or a team of advisors, because I was exactly the same, actually, from a
Yeah.
personal
Yeah.
perspective. And, I
Yeah.
that makes a huge difference to the way that you, I think, move past something like that as well. So once the end of that career is over, you've learned so much. And I think as a wellness mentor for yourself, the amount that you would have learned from all of those
Yeah.
people, you would have taken all those things together and sort of push that into what it is that you do now, which is to help people live really healthful, sustainable lives, no matter what it is that they're choosing to do.
So that was the main problem. Most things I could get through a prep, but then I still ran my own business as a personal trainer, but I just didn't have the empathy or the energy to get through my day with the amount of food I was on. And then, as I said, post show, I really wasn't interested in helping people. So 95% of my clients were males, because they were basically, you do this.
So you've worked more than 20 years in the fitness industry and the health industry, and you've helped heaps of people, supporting them to achieve their goals through health, well-being, and self-control. In your experience, what have been the top 3 barriers that you've seen with other people and the challenges they've had in their own quest to reach their goals?
Self-esteem mainly would be the first one, and people's identity with what they feel they have to be opposed to what they want to be. Um, Estrogen has been another factor. People who are blocked by a barrier of hormones due to the fact that they're unaware that excess, being on contraceptives or medication over the years has then blocked them from moving forward. And then people's lack of knowledge for nutrition, what is actually good for them opposed to what's not, and then thinking, I can go burn off excess amounts of calories by doing excessive amounts of cardio. So that's probably been the main things. Like when you're dealing with people who usually the main factor when someone might connect with me would be, I want to lose weight. And I'll go, well, what sort of weight? And they'll go, well, I want to lose 20 kilos. I'll go, well, 20 kilos of what? I said, you don't have 20 kilos to lose. If I look at you, are you talking water, body fat? I said, because there's not 20 kilos to lose. And then trying to nurture and restructure education that people actually fathom, okay, I don't need to lose all this muscle, like, and taking a percentage of their bone. So when you're jumping on the scales, you know, what are we actually measuring? Is it grey fat, yellow fat, brown fat, and what is holding you back? But probably the number one has been self-esteem and self-esteem issues, and then people identifying what they actually want to look like and feel like. When most people just present a photo to me and go, I want to look like this, and I go, well, you do realize it's a photo of Elle Macpherson, and she's 6'2" and built like an android, you know, and you're 5'6". So a lot of the times too, I will be the mediator between your goal and the reality. And let's say, well, let's be the best you can be in a time factor that we both agree upon, that's going to be kind to your system. So that's probably been the main challenge, is being aware, self-awareness, and also education. So this is reality. And the photo that you're sending me, or you know, presenting to me is doctored in some way, or this person, it's taken them 20 years to look like that.
Yeah, people don't know the backstory. It's
No.
it's interesting when people set goals, because they don't realize that this idea of a goal that they have is actually just a fantasy, because it's not. It's just a fantasy.
Yeah,
And
and I
people
would
get caught
normally,
up.
yeah, normally in a consult, or if I meet someone, tell me your top 3 goals. Tell me in how important they are to you, and it will normally factor in to look a certain way. And I go, well, you know, and what are you prepared to cut out to look at this way? And then the sacrifice never really, on a scale of 1 to 10, measures up to how that's to look. You know, and sometimes to me, in a personal opinion, it is very unrealistic. And then we keep on then starting to mediate the goal. And when we both come to a goal we both agree on, I go, okay, well, this is what I think you can tangibly do. It doesn't mean you can't go beyond that, but let's do achievable goals to start with. Otherwise, I think it's going to be very unfair on your self-esteem, which is the main issue why you're here, to get past this particular challenge which you want to get to. So that helps me help them, empower them to get the skill set to get where they need to be. And then we start with the nutrition and, you know, the knowledge about how they actually genetically structured, or what they held back from past onion layers of medication or abuse or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, I think it's really important to find that structured approach to goal setting, because a lot of people don't even know how to set a goal, or the reason to set a goal that sort of baffles them. So speaking of goals, you had always dreamt that you would become an Iron Woman, but
Yeah.
you couldn't actually get to training because you were instructing group
Right.
exercise classes, right? So instead,
So yeah.
years later, you moved into sports supplement space, and obviously into,
Yep.
you know, your figure athlete space. And this
Yep.
experience for you was unlike anything you'd ever seen before, but you used your life experience to get you to where you wanted to go. What was the driving force behind creating that dream into a goal and then a reality for you?
Okay, so why I couldn't get to be an Iron Woman was I was always at work. So their training was like 5 in the morning, but I used to start work at 5, and I used to teach 25 classes a week at the Sports Super Centre, group exercise. And it was frustrating because I also then thought, oh, okay, well, I'll try my best to be sports acro. But same thing too, I couldn't get to the training because of the work. So by chance, on this particular day, I was having a bad time of the day. I didn't get on with a lot of the hierarchy females at this particular institute, and I wanted to leave. I was like, you know what, I just can't work with chicks, man. Like, I don't want to be here. And it was the right place, right time. My future coach had walked through. He was the security guard, you know, good shape. What do you do? And I said, what I did. And he says, oh, would you be interested in pursuing bodybuilding? And I said, oh, yuck, no, horrible. Big, fat, bloated, you know, drinking out of blenders, scratching their nuts type of bodybuilder look. I was horrified. And he was one of the most interesting guys I've ever met, because I actually was on the way to use the facilities, and got talking to this guy for an hour and a half about, you know, the lifestyle and, you know, what goes into actual performance for bodybuilders. And yeah, I started training this guy 7 days a week. And there wasn't really a goal as such, but I think I wanted to see how far I could push myself physically. And, you know, I'd moved interstate to start this job. I didn't know a lot of people. I was probably trying to step outside my comfort zone. I'm not an outwardly I'm outgoing, but I'm also very closed up as well. So I probably did it to, you know, test my comfort zone as well, and trying to fit in somewhere and probably try and understand a different group of people. And it just started from there. And then as it went on, you know, just found that I enjoyed it. I love the discipline of the sport, but it was also a sport that I could actually then control any injuries that I had from, you know, teaching that amount of exercise, and pushed myself on a personal level that I didn't really need to fit in with a group or a team. So even though we had like-minded people at a gym, it was different from what I was doing I was working at a health club, and this is more of a gymnasium, like hardcore gym. I enjoyed the variety, and then it just went from there. And then he passed away, my coach, unfortunately. And then I met my new coach, who was as tough as nails. And I tell you, that was probably the 5 of the hardest years of my professional career, mentally and physically. And it just went from there. And I think the emphasis back then was achieving, and maybe too, I still had a chip on my shoulder. I still felt I had to prove something, when, you know, years later worked out that it was only ever trying to prove something to myself. Because you think, okay, genetically probably wasn't the best gifted athlete, being, you know, super tall, I got legs like a daddy long legs. And, you know, you get a coach who pushes you, but then you have other coaches who tell you the truth and go, listen, you ain't cut out for this, kid, you know. And then that's probably another towards, you know, the mid part of my career. It was a matter of, no, I'm doing this, and I'm going to do it to my best ability, and I'm going to learn as much as I can, because I really don't feel like, even if you know, find yourself in a sport that you're not genetically gifted, you can't give it your best. If you want to do something, you should be able to achieve that. So I think more the midway of my career was the turning point, and where the tenacity became too ferocious for me, become very, very protective and very, very militant with what I was doing. And I blocked out a lot of people, because I thought, well, you know, if you're not with me, you're against me. And if you're not helping me, you're part of the problem. And that's probably where, you know, I started to really get into my training. And it wasn't probably once I survived that coach to my next coach, John, that I started actually to enjoy, and then was aware of, okay, listen, for you to continue this sort of lifestyle, you have to look after your health. I was probably 27, 28 by now, and really realized that, you know, hormones change. What you could do at 21, you can't do at 28. And had to go, well, if I'm in for the long haul, I have to make an investment, not just an aesthetic. I have to go, you know, cellular and mental. So that's what I did.
So at what point did you move into the sports supplement space on that journey?
Well, I'd always been interested in sports supplements, because I think early in my career, you know, there was a lot of other things offered to athletes to help enhance your physical, you know, attributes or abilities. So to me, if I could find something that was on the same wavelength, or if, you know, I could manipulate my system through something that was organic or vitamin or supplement wise, I was going to find it. So I started doing a lot of my own research. Got very close with Matt Legg at ATP Science. He opened my eyes to a lot of other parameters of what you can push your body and how to support your body. Yeah, and then sort of got a bit jaded working in the fitness industry. I think I found it hard being a professional athlete and helping a lot of other athletes while I was actually prepping or mainstream clients who weren't invested in their health. So it was very hard for me to be a part of the fitness industry when no one was, well, at the time, I didn't feel people were as invested in their health, like simple getting a blood test or just seeing how they are, when they really just wanted to patch things up or put shit in their face or, you know, jab something in their ass, when really there was other options. So I got out of the fitness industry for a couple of years there and pursued our own supplement style store. And yeah, and it was interesting that as well. And then, you know, same thing, I worked out that people are just looking for the next best product to burn fat, lift something, burn something without actual hard work. So that was frustrating. So I wasn't put on the floor a lot, because I was having some very honest conversations with people telling you take any more of this shit, you're going to get a stroke. So, and people don't want to hear that. And in retail, you know, you're there to sell. As I found that a bit of dichotomy for myself, because the reality of it, like, listen, keep on taking this shit, it's not going to work out good for you. And then also to be very frustrating, people wouldn't, you offer them advice, and not even a financial thing. I said, well, listen, on a scale of 1 to 10, you really need to be taking, you know, glutamine or a non dairy protein to suit your blood type or where your blood's actually at. And people wouldn't listen. So I found that frustrating too. Or someone coming in asking about their health and they're holding a donut. So I found myself professionally offended a lot, which you can't do that in sales. You have to be there and available and just be, okay, I'm just going to sell you whatever you want and make budget. And I struggled with that. So hence why I was put out the back a lot of the time and just deal with the chemical sides of things and developing, as I would struggle going, listen, I don't even know what I'm talking to you. So, and that's hard. So that was hard when working with supplementation in a retail environment.
Yeah, I can relate to that challenge completely. You are a country girl from Dubbo, and you've had such a love for horses, and it's quite interesting because people can actually find you riding in equestrian events in another part of your life. And riding is hard work and requires good aerobic endurance, which I think sounds like it's been quite a transferable skill from all of the other things you've done. What does your fitness program look like to prepare you for an equestrian event?
Okay, so when I transitioned from bodybuilding, so I had gone from figure up to bodybuilding, back down to physique, back down to figure. So I've gone a whole echelon of physique shape changing. And then when I had chosen to retire from professional bodybuilding or stage competition, I bought my first horse off the racetrack, and he was super fit and super uneducated. So I started getting myself back into it, and I just come up to show. So I thought I was pretty fit. I was training 4 hours a day, but I tell you, it's probably one of the hardest, realizations that I was show fit for stage, not for this sort of thing. So, I was getting up to, I probably lost 16, 17 kilos of weight, muscle and actual weight, to get back on to be able to ride at, what I'm doing now. And I was at the particular place where I had the horses. You weren't allowed on site till 6 o'clock in the morning because the horses get fed at the same time. So I was still getting up to the gym and doing cardio, and I intermittent fasted for pretty much 8 months, and ate between 11 and 8 to drop some size. And then the best sort of fitness I could do was actual match fitness. So I found the fitter I got was I had to ride more. So then had started riding other people's horses. I bought other horses to try and help me fulfill this sport. Like, and it's hard. Like I'd be riding and I'd be going, Jesus Christ, this horse is breathing heavy. But it was me. I was stuffed, and doing so much hypertrophy training for years, and even teaching group exercise, you're in control. If you might do 1,000,000 reps for one set, like you get that, you keep moving until, either your horse is responding or understanding. And that set could go for ages. So, and the coach I've got at the moment, he's relentless, man. There's no breaks. There is absolutely no breaks until the horse needs a break. There's nothing about, oh, do you need a breather? You keep riding. So I've had to be able to do that. So a set might go for 15 minutes. You just keep going. There's no breaks.
So it's quite the sport of endurance. Man,
It is like cross country. I went to
yeah.
It's like cross country running. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the breathing. I kept on saying to my coach, when does the breathing kick in? He's like, it just happens. And I said, no, but you don't understand. I've never been this winded. I have burning lungs. And he's like, I don't know. You just have to work it out, and you do, and you have to also then believe I can hold this.
Anne-Marie, you've created this extraordinary life as a very multifaceted professional athlete in so many different areas, mate, and you've been an entrepreneur. It's a big question, but finally, I'm sure our audience would like to hear, what are your top 3 tips to living a fulfilling and purposeful life?
Being aware of what you really want, not just an image of what you think is needed to make everyone else happy. Taking the time to smell the roses and actually look back on your achievements and forecast how those achievements are going to fulfill you in the future. And communicate. You need to be able to communicate with people around you. You are not to support yourself. And then, you have to coexist in be social, your family, and, be aware that what you do can affect other people. So just be honest with yourself and not be that goal orientated that you forget that people around you are a part of the process as well.
Love it, mate. Thank you so much for sharing that. Some beautiful tips. And I think a lot of people have now got a lot more insight into who Anne-Marie Lasserre is, and she's not just this glamazon. And I want to thank you sincerely for joining me on today's episode of the Healthy Habit Hot Seat. Guys, stay tuned for the next episode where we're going to dive deep into the intricacies of Anne-Marie's life and the success habits that have formed where she is now as an entrepreneur, an athlete, and an amazing human being. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Chat soon. Thanks so much for joining us this week on the Healthy Habit Hot Seat. Make sure to visit lozlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, I'd be stoked with a 5-star rating on iTunes. Better still, tell a friend and share the love. If you loved this episode, you might want to check out my book, The Healthy Habit Handbook, available in softcover, ebook, and audio form on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Balboa Press, and all good bookstores. Be sure to tune in for our next episode for your fortnightly dose of inspiration from some of the world's most successful and healthy lifestyle masters. Remember, stay inspired. I'm Loz Antonenko, and ciao for now.